Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. It's a prism of endless possibility, where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities, creating alternate worlds from the ones that you know. I am the Stripe. I am your guide to these vast new realities. Follow me and ponder the question. Wouldn't the world be much better if they had a cinematic version of My Extreme Partners of Monkey? Movie versions of cartoons are a very interesting topic, especially in regards to the ones in theaters. Like, yeah, I'm sure you know the SpongeBob movie or the Simpsons movie, but most of the rest are very forgotten and generally don't get a lot of fanfare outside their dedicated fan bases. Outside of the Bob's Burger movie, which flopped hard, there really hasn't been a notable theatrical film based on a non-SpongeBob cartoon since the My Little Pony movie in 2017, at least a fully animated one. Culprit to why this is? I'd pin the blame on the PowerPuff Girls movie. While a fun film, big hopes were had for this. CN intended to make several films based off their shows. A whole line of movies were set up, and they even had a sneak little title card with all their characters. The problem is, the film they picked to kickstart this all is a film made for all ages but had a girl in the title. No boys gonna watch this. This was back when adults liking cartoons was more looked down upon. The show is popular but not revolutionary popular like SpongeBob is. A lot of reasons came together to kill this movie and any hopes of a Cartoon Network film universe. With them never doing another theatrical film until Teen Titans Go, which is a DC property so it barely counts. But what if it did well? What if Cartoon Network went through with their plans? That's what I want to discuss. A hypothetical alternate universe where the PPG movie did well and CM made more theatrical films. I'm going to try and make this semi-realistic, but like, dude, that's hard, just bear with me. It's really hard to accurately predict an alternate timeline, so I'm not going to go like CM become a goal behemoth so large that puts every company out of business so that they can now fund their big Punch-Out Explosion Cinematic Universe movie. That's 3 separate parts that stars Morgan Freeman as Courage. Listen, this is all for fun. If anything seems off, go to the alternate universe where the PG movie was successful and tell me what I did wrong. Join me in reviewing history to share fact check on the big screen. This is what if we had a Cartoon Network cinematic universe. A CNMAC universe, if you will. We start off where all good stories start. The beginning of time. 2002. With the release of the PowerPuff Girls movie. This is still the exact film we know. Except in this timeline, Pamela Cooties don't exist, so everyone shows up unmasked to watch it. It's not like a massive game changer, but it manages to easily make back its budget and a little more so. Because of the success, CN moves forward with their plans to make movies based off their shows. In 2004, we got the next big screen CN movie, codenamed Kids Next Door. This is not Operation Zero. Instead, this is a brand new film. Operation Fall, Foiling Awful Learning Lessons, is about the K&D coming together to take on one of the biggest problems kids have to face: school. Every August, they're dragged back to class and lose the fun of summer. They don't even get a break like winter and spring. After an agonizing week, the K&D unanimously come together in a vote that they must remove the entirety of August from the schedule, with their top scientists finding a way to remove the month from existence. This now means no school. However, half the kids, including number 2, are now missing, as this was their birth month. And unfortunately, since he was had to enter a device to remove August, they have no idea how to reverse the process, leading to team up with some of their villains, including Father, who are all really hyped to have the kids gone for a significant part of the year to get the school season back on. All while being chased with their vengeful teacher, a new character who is happy to no longer be forced to teach children, and is voiced by a post-Matrix, pre-John Wick Keanu Reeves. The film does just about as well as PPG. Not as big of a name, but the good faith of that film sprinkled onto this. Now that leads us to the PowerPuff Girls movie 2. They realize they can't handle all the villains on their own, and wish to live their own lives. So they can deal with the writer of boys. They'll share their allowance with them if the boys do the hero work. The boys are all on this as they tend to make the girls look as bad as possible, before Mojo Jojo and him come in and encourage them to do something even more sinister. After a nice break of living their lives, the girls go back to their house ready to plan out their next exciting adventure, only to be met by Professor Utonium, who's absolutely ecstatic about all the good work the girls did. Every villain has either been imprisoned or reformed. The Monster Island has been completely sealed off. The mayor has finally been fired and replaced with someone more competent, and it's all thanks to them. The thing is, they know something is off. So it's up to the Powerpuff Girls to once again save the day from Mojo, Kim, and the Rowdy Ruffs. The film is an even bigger success than the first, thanks to a more consistent tone, inclusion of fan favorites like him and the Rowdy Ruff boys, helping to serve as a finale. And with one more year of the show planned, it's stated that this canonically is where it ends for the 3 girls. Then in 2005, we get the Courage the Cowardly Dog movie, a grand ending to everyone's favorite purple jelly bean dog. After noticing a pattern of a lot of weird things happening in a little area of nowhere, Muriel finally decides to move. Much to the delight of Courage, he's ready to have a nice, peaceful life with his owner, away from the hustle of horror of nowhere. Muriel talks big about wanting to move somewhere nice, but being this cheapskate he is, he usually just finds the cheapest new resident he can. So it's moving day, and Courage is happy to finally leave, sleeping the whole way through. As he happily wakes up as they pull into their new town, Innsmouth, a shadowy, gloomy town by the bay, already looking like its inhabitants are rotting away. But surely it can't be that bad, right? Well, no. Courage wanders where he's not supposed to, discovers a cult trying to unleash their Dark Lord, Cthulhu, to bring them darkest day. And now Courage needs to stand against his biggest foe. Courage's huge niche in the CN fandom, along with people interested in a dark take on kids film, caused this film to do well. Alongside a cast of stars voicing the cult leaders, including Tim Curry, who actually voices in the show proper. The film ends with Courage returning back from nowhere, finally restful and happy, sitting on Muriel's lap. He hears a knock on the door and curiously looks at it. Wednesday gathered with most dangerous foes out there. Courage begins to yell, only to simply cough, politely open the door, kick him all over his house all the way to Innsmouth. And Courage himself pulls down the end sign, naming both the film and Courage as a franchise. I can tell you're all worried, but don't worry. In 2006, we still had Operation Zero. This film is more or less the same film we know in our universe, except here, we got Mr. Hannibal Lecter himself, Sir Anthony Hopkins, the voice of Grandfather. The film did about as well as the last one, give or take. Probably a bit worse as the show isn't as new, but it wasn't a flop or anything. In 2007, Foster's Home gets a fully original film, which I'll title Homeless. In this, Blue seemingly caused the destruction of an entire town, leading the staff to rush an adoption for every member of the house, including Blue, as Frank and Harriman aren't too happy about their lives being ruined, and since there's no house, technically they can't keep the deal they made with Mac, being to visit Blue every day. The main trio managed to avoid getting adopted, and they need to team up with Mac to help rescue Blue from his new owner. A local bully of Mac's found out about Blue, staged the destruction, and wishes to make both Mac and Blue suffer, requiring the whole house to come together as the boys recognize their imagination. As has been established, teens can still imagine friends. The film actually does it very well. It's easy to forget, Foster's was a huge deal in the 2000s. A big budget version of it would probably be successful. This then takes us to CN's first big risk, their first live-action film. This isn't a stretch, because they did this in a saw screen in our universe, and they're going to upgrade that here, because Race Against Time is now a theatrical release. Plot-wise, this is the same Race Against Time, where Ben, played by Daniel Sabara, aka the dude from Side Kids, is battling the evil Eon, played by Willem Dafoe. This time, there's something wonderful. They can actually afford to show the aliens this time. Since Alien Force will debate next year, I'd also like there to be a little subplot, where there's another villain working with Eon, Kevin, played by... I have trouble with one, Joss Peck, top of my mind, as that sounds funny, so sure. He's a goon working for Eon, and helping him with absorption powers. But his love of Gwen and the mistreatment by Eon caused him to rebel, trapping himself and Eon in a time vortex, which will later be revealed to be the Null Void. I should note that Kevin doesn't go full beast form here. That's safe for the next film. Speaking of the next film, the credits have a special surprise, where a shadowy figure is watching Ben. This figure stands up, realizing what he's been searching for millennia has finally resurfaced, and finally reveals himself to be Vilgax, who will star in the next film. But before that, we have the final film of this year, Billy and Mandy's Big Buggy Adventure. This is almost exactly the film you know today, minus update and budget. Also, CN wanted them to get a big star cameo in the movie that the TV budget wouldn't allow, but now they can. Number 3 is out, and they can now have Angelina Jolie, CN's genuine #1 pick for a 2007 made-for-TV movie to make a cameo as a Grim Reaper. Sadly, this film just barely made back its budget, being too weird for mainstream audiences not familiar with the show. Those who love the show accepted it wholeheartedly, but it wasn't enough. So even in this timeline, the other Billy and Mandy movies remain exclusive to TV. Skipping a year, 2009 in our world it got 2 major releases. They both happened here too. Destination Imagination is the same film you know, except World, the villain made exclusively for this movie, is voiced by Elijah Wood. The film didn't do as well thanks to Foster's waning hype, but it still turned a tiny profit. Ed and Eddie's Big Picture Show is exactly the movie you remember even with budget increases. The same story, the same jokes, the same cast. It's a Canadian co-production, so notable stars here in America were unattainable. Despite that, the film did pretty well for itself. Having the smallest budget of any movie in this universe is so far helping a lot. While not lighting the world on fire, fans of the franchise and the starter teams all show up for the Edge final outing, bringing the Big Picture Show and the 2000s to a close. In 2010, we get the Chowder movie. Chowder is the grand finale to the show, or at least its biggest moment. Chowder finds half a map that leads to Pie Land, a magical island that contains the fabled recipe of Gravy Jones gravy. The one catch, the other half of the map is held by Panini. Luckily, the two must team up to find the fabled land, all being followed by pirates, and their leader, McConaughey. What's that Matthew McConaughey? This is where I revealed to you that nothing I said was my idea. This was a genuine plan C.H. Greenblatt, Chowder's creator, had, even going as far as to storyboard it fully. The thing is, he didn't really love the original storyboard. And since it's a TV film originally, it had time constraints, he scrapped it where he could rework it. But with the extra time of theatrical release, I think this film can finally come out. Chowder didn't have its cult status it has now back then, but enough kids managed to drag their parents to it. And the poll of Matthew McConaughey leads us to do a bit better than even. At long last, and a time to the release of Ultimate Alien, the Ben 10 sequel Alien Swarm comes out. But this time, it's nothing like the film we know. Vilgax, voiced by Steve Buscemi, let me have this, has planted a bomb onto Earth, and it'll blow up in 48 hours if the Omnitrix is not delivered to him. When investigating the bomb, it's revealed that it won't blow up Earth. Instead, a deadly powder will unleash from it, mutating all of humanity to mindless aliens Vilgax can control. A wave of aliens. An alien swarm, if you will. In a desperate bid to escape his fate, with a moment of cowardice, Ben, with Gwen in tow, finds a way to the pocket universe, the Null Void, where they meet with the mutated Kevin. The three must now team up to take Vilgax down before the bomb goes off. After the big final clash, where Ben's aliens are pushed to their limits, we get a scene similar to the Alien 4 season finale, where Ben gives Vilgax the Omnitrix, only to reveal there's a catch. This time, he's luring Vilgax into a trap to take him down. As Gwen, Max, and Kevin re-engineer the bomb to mutate aliens. Right before his death, Vilgax catches on that he was tricked and places some sort of virus onto the Omnitrix unbeknownst to Ben. In the end credits, we see Ben sleeping peacefully, as the Omnitrix starts glitching rapidly without Ben waking up. It shuffles through several of his forms before ending on Ghost Freak, ending the movie. With Ultimate Alien just coming out, the dead hype is at its absolute high. And even people who aren't into Alien Force check the film out due to the inclusion of Vilgax, causing this to not only outdo its predecessor, but become the highest grossing film CN has made. Okay, so I debated if I should even include this one, but I feel like you could justify at least a limited theatrical release. In 2011, Johnny Bravo Goes to Bollywood gets released. A film most people in our reality don't remember, because it's not made for us. It's made for India, who are massive fans of Johnny Bravo, in the same way Brazil loves Woody Woodpecker. I think, with the increased budget, it'd be interesting if they brought back some Indian stars. But I don't know. The film gets a limited release in the States, so while it doesn't do well, it flopping doesn't harm seeing that much. 2013 is the year of threes, as two big threequels come out. Ben 10 gets its third and final theatrical release. Again, live action. Ben 10, the Galactic Ghoul, picks up where the last left off. Ben realizes Omnitrix has been acting strange ever since he beat Vilgax, never giving him what he wants, always defaulting to Ghost Freak. He's noticed that he's starting to feel pain whenever he uses the transformation. And with Ghost Freak being nearly always the alien he gets, Ben takes a step back from using the Omnitrix, looking to the plumbers and Matt for help. Unfortunately, an accident while studying the watch unleashes Ghost Freak, or as he first be called, the Scare, Russia Benedict Cumberbatch, into the world, who gain consciousness after Vilgax placed a device to wake up aliens inside of it, which upon waking up, the Scare slowly absorbed several of the other sentient aliens in the watch to become closer to becoming freed. Now he's released, the Scare wants to inflict the pain he's felt being trapped onto the world, looking to block out the stun, trapping humanity in a never-ending darkness, where he can then feed on and corrupt humanity into minions of himself. This is my favorite Ben 10 villain, I'm a little biased. But with Ben 10 franchise on the way out, this film didn't do too spectacularly. Turned a bit of a profit, sure, but it's fairly disappointing for the higher-ups who expected it up from Alien Swarm, leading to another nail in Ben 10's coffin. For the third PPG movie, though, it's interesting, as it ties into the 50th anniversary of the series. The special dance pants that we got, by the way, still exist in this universe, just a standalone piece. The film focuses on a slightly older set of girls. They're not teens or adults or anything, they still look the exact same, but they're finally about to graduate elementary. So this takes place about 6 years after the original series. In that time, the girls actually got to live a normal life, as after a while, villains just kind of stopped appearing and attacking the city. Even their normal rivals of Mojo and him are just not heard from. The only problem is that they have to deal with Princess Morbucks, who's going to the same school, and still talks a big game, but has nothing to flaunt for it. The thing is, after all the times of her threatening the girls that her dad will make them pay, they finally get to spend more time with her dad, who is a supervillain and is voiced by John Goodman. Daddy Morbucks has actually been funding the villains of Townsville throughout all these years, giving them access to his tech simply because he owns a construction company, and the more the villains destroy, the more he gets paid. It's a never-ending cycle. However, eventually, the villains give up one by one, tired of the same results of losing to a bunch of girls, causing them all to retire in some way. He just simply relaxes at his house. Tim gets hired as a special effects artist in Hollywood. Mojo is now a humble circus monkey, and so on. The thing is, years of studying the girls' fights has caused Daddy Morbucks to pick up the girls' fighting styles. And with businesses now failing, he realizes the real money makers, the girls, who made elementary graduation. He ambushes and easily beats and kidnaps, where he's now going to force the girls to work for him now on any project he can, including his personal attack dogs, ruling the city of Townsville with an iron fist. Now it's up to a grief-stricken professor, a now jobless mayor in Bellum, and the combined forces of Mojo, Fuzzy, him, and Morbucks, all people the lies Daddy had and feeling they've been used, to rescue the girls and make the day right once again. With a heavy focus on the adults who watched the original show as kids, this actually picks up a decent audience, becoming the best performing of the PowerPuff Girls trilogy, and a good way to end the franchise. For now. Okay, so 2014, another Chan movie. Obviously, you all saw this coming. They want to take their time with this one, but with the show being extremely successful, you know they had to go theatrical with this one. Honestly, if I ever made a Adventure Time film in our reality, depending on when they made it, I can honestly see that going theatrical. The show is that big. The problem is, I'm sorry, for the life of me, I could not think of a plot for this one. I'm trying to keep show canon in mind. How a show ends and constructs itself should remain mostly unchanged between realities. I'm going to keep this video rather simple. Problem is, all the shows covered so far have been episodic. I guess Ben 10 has some more story-based moments, but since those are live action, unless it's a different timeline, it doesn't matter. With Adventure Time, can you really make a grand new story that fits in where the show was during its peak popularity? It's not impossible. 2014 would put it around season 6. Very no Ice King with Simon, Betty has been set up, Rainbow Corn has been given birth, Finn hooked up with and later was dumped by Flame Princess. There's definitely wiggle room, but I really can't think of a proper way to make this film while still in the guidelines of a notable standalone movie that still works in Adventure Time's timeline. Still, the film was unsurprisingly a big success, keeping with the show's massive popularity. Okay, so in 2015 we got the Samurai Jack movie. So you know Samurai Jack Season 5? Yeah, it's that. I know I just said I didn't want to change the original timeline show output, but this is the one time feel it's justified. They wanted to make a Samurai Jack movie many times, and now they got their shot. Basically, it's a condensed version of Season 5. Jack has become immortal, and has never ending quest to stop a coup, eventually meeting Ashi. The two form a bond, meet some old friends, and they finally put an end to the coup's reign once and for all. Since this is a movie, I like to think they would end with a more satisfying ending than the bittersweet one in the show. So in this timeline, the good ending of the game, where Ashi and Jack end together without her being erased, is canon, and all is right with the world. The film does pretty well, as Jack is a firmly established classic at this point, alongside retaining the more adult nature of the final season with it being PG-13, attracting some people out to see an edgier adult film. It didn't blow anyone's mind, but bringing back this old show was a success. In 2016, the Rachel movie comes out, and again, it's not what you remember. It's certainly big enough for a cinematic take on the show. I don't think anything plot-wise needs to be changed. Again, they'll probably get someone bigger to voice Mr. Ross. Let's say Jack Black, sure. But honestly, it's not like Jason Mendoza isn't that well known of a name. They could just keep him. With the show being past its prime, I don't see the world being set on fire, but it would do pretty decently. In 2017, though, something major happens. Gumball finally gets a movie. I'm kind of fudging a bit here, since the show ends in 2018. I want to keep that ending, like the ending sucks, but rules. But I think I can go with something that still works. This goes over Rob's first attempt to prevent the Void, in which under a new alias, he's slowly kidnapping everyone one by one, putting them in a sort of bunker that'll protect them from the Void. Gumball's upset that everyone's being taken besides him, because Rob honestly doesn't want to save Gumball and his family after everything they've done to him. This eventually pushes Rob, after meeting with Gumball so many times while trying to accomplish his plans, to merge with the Void and finally take out the Watersons, which after a fight gets demerged and the family rescues everyone. The end credits make it more clear that the Void is coming, and that Rob needs to hurry. That then sets up the finale. Honestly, not my proudest pitch here, but I think it works fine. The film requires heavy familiarity with the show, unlike most movies based on cartoons, but it was a popular enough brand that they can still make the film do decently. Okay, I thought I've been pretty reasonable for this video. All these ideas for movies make sense. CN crossover movie. So yeah, it's always gonna be a little out there, but in this timeline, we've got a dozen fairly big hit films. It's been over a decade since they started. I can throw in a giant crossover. I think it's earned. Non-canon to all their shows, Mojo has seemingly invented a device to combine all universes into one. With the help of a few others he picked up along the way while testing the device out, being Vilgax, Mandark, Ice King, Cat, Gary Bobby Ferguson, Father, Nurgle, and Peridot, who was picked up by accident. History has tracked these weird riffs in reality and pulls in their respective heroes from the worlds mentioned. Alongside KO, Valiant Surrogate helped set up the newest at the time Saiyan show, and the heroes must slowly work out their differences and fight through Mojo's army, using help from Peridot, who's slowly relaying information to them. As they get closer, Mojo realizes the device is acting strange, until eventually when the heroes corner the villains, it's revealed the device, called the Crossover Nexus, yeah, that's the title by the way. And also, yeah, it's sentient and looking to combine all timelines into one to make things easier to understand, leading all the heroes and villains to team up, besides Vilgax who turns traitor, to take the Nexus down. During the fight, the heroes go across various Sans worlds. They don't super interact with the characters or anything, but some nice fan service for some of the smaller Sans shows. Of course, it ends with the heroes winning and everyone going back to their worlds. If you're wondering why these franchises were the main stars, mostly just because they're the big, iconic, popular ones. Ed and Eddie and Gumball were excluded due to being co-productions with other companies. Johnny Bravo was excluded due to CN's rocky history with him, and Samurai Jack was excluded due to being more seen as for adults at the time. Now, I'd love to say this film broke records, but this film, making back its budget, was still seen as a disappointment due to its large marketing budget and the extremely high hopes of the executives. But sadly, the idea kind of confuses a lot of people. Kids don't know the older stuff, adults don't care about the newer stuff, and for that, this film does so lukewarmly, it starts to decline for the CN Animatic universe. But in 2018, they decided to drop one more bombshell: Adventure Time live action remake. Hey, Ben 10 worked out pretty well. So with the Adventure Time show winding down, let's look at what live action take. It's going to take a lot of cues from the original few seasons. Starts with a big action scene of Finn, played by Tom Holland. That's it. That's the only cast I'm going to get for this segment. Writing this broke my heart. I freaking hate my life. Fighting Ice King alongside Jake and rescuing Princess Bubblegum. Well, Finn and Jake talk about how much of a pushover Ice King is. It cuts to a scene of him talking to Gunther about how stressful his life is and how he hates that he always loses. Looking for an ancient artifact that he's heard made people super buff and cool. Later, the duo fight Ice King, but he's actually strong now, easily kidnapping not just Bubblegum, but every princess. And weird for him, he plans to sacrifice them all by cutting them up and forming one perfect princess. The duo, with the help of Marceline, first up assignment is acting strange, explore the world, and take on Ice King. Later revealed to be possessed by the Lich, who's going to possess the rotting perfect princess and gain all their powers. And princesses in the Adventure Time universe are usually shown as being most powerfully in tune with their elements. He's defeated and escapes, but it's hinted at that he'll return. The film does fairly averagely. Enough kids should have their parents to it, and a few nostalgic teens and adults want to check it out. And this being before live action remake fatigue helps. But again, CN wanted to set the world on fire, and at best they got a fireplace. With some of their biggest and most experimental films flopping, and with the shift from TV to streaming slowly stagnating their brand, this marks the end of the CN and Mac universe. The CN universe movie comes out next year, and I could see it being a limited release. It did in our universe. We'll probably get a few more theaters. But after that, everyone's favorite checkered flag studio reaches their own finale. Well, that was depressing. Is this a truly realistic lineup? Probably not. Some shows are probably big enough to get their films I didn't mention. Although I could do weird stuff and give frickin' Scroll Boy a movie or something. But I did try with this one. This is a really fun thought experiment, looking at actors at a time, try to cast everyone, like trying to figure out what the budget and return would be, the plots for all these. This is like a really fun thought experiment. But again, is this realistic? Probably not. Who knows? It's hard to, predict something. The big thing is, this is just one of many possibilities. You can tell me your own thoughts on how they make a big CN film line. Because I'm sure my reality isn't the only one. I know for a fact, actually. I have seen all realities. Everything that is, was, and will be exists in my brain. The universe, the multiverse, the hyperverse, the Ben 10 omniverse. It's all contained by and confirmed by me. I am God. In every universe. There still isn't one where Murder for Universe is Courage. Like, come on, that'd be so perfect. Like, come on!
In case of movie break glass.
Bingo! A peanut?